and welcome to another episode of the Match Slip Podcast. I'm your host, Frank Angeloni. Today's show, we're going to be talking to Cardboard Shuffle with store owner Mark out in Tennessee. If you haven't already listened, we released today an episode with Treasure Coast Magic. Don and Jen are the owners of that store out in Port St. Lucie, Florida. So you could check that episode out. This is episode 10, and I'm very happy to welcome Mark to the show. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well as well. Glad to hear you're doing well too. What part, Mark, of Tennessee are you guys in? Because I saw on your website, Kingsport was the town listed on the website. I was curious, like in relation to the major cities like Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville, the ones I could think of off the top of my head, what's the proximity of your store to those locations in Kingsport?
Okay, so we're 8.5 hours east of Memphis. We are about 4.5 hours, 5 hours away from Nashville to the east, and then about an hour and a half to the east of Knoxville. We're a factory town. I don't know if you're familiar with Kodak Film Company.
Yes.
Yeah. So originally it was founded in Kingsport, Tennessee. From my understanding, it was the Kodak Eastman Company. And then that's why everybody moved to this area. And then when the digital cameras took over, Eastman and Kodak split off, and now Kodak is located in New York, and Eastman is now headquartered in Kingsport. So, but it's so that's the reason why anybody even lives in this area. But it's also about 5 minutes drive from Virginia, and then I don't know if you're familiar with Bristol Motor Speedway. If anybody's familiar with that, we're about 15 minutes from there. So
your closest proximity is actually Virginia as compared to those other major cities in Tennessee.
Yeah, we're actually closer to We're actually pretty close to Star City Games. Not to give them a free shout out there, but we're about 2 hours from them, so we're right in the middle between Roanoke and Knoxville. Okay,
it's funny you brought up Star City Games because I recently spoke with Mike Hall not too long ago of Blade Gaming, and he told me to reach out to you. So how long have you and Mike known each other for?
So Mike is actually from my area originally, and then he migrated up that way, for a larger city feel. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We have about the same population area as Roanoke because we're in the area they call the Tri-Cities, which has about 500,000 people metro area. But none of the cities are very large in themselves. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So did you start off when Cardboard Shuffle came about? How did it come about to be? Did you start off working at other game stores prior and then Cardboard Shuffle soon came into the mix?
Yeah, kind of. So I have a really convoluted story with that. So I had my own construction supply company back in the day. I was really young when I started that, and decided somebody offered to buy me out when I was about 24, 25 of the construction supply company. They were actually after my contracts with Eastman Chemical, and so I sold to them. Decided I was going to go back to school, do something else with my life. And during the back to school, I started working for another game store in the area that no longer, they still sell games occasionally, but they're now more of a pub than anything else. And I worked for them. They were struggling when I started working for them, but when I left, they were doing, a couple $1 million a year in sales. Mm-hmm. And then went off and become a school teacher. And then circle around COVID. COVID happens. I got bored. So I started just, selling my cards online, just boredom. Bought a few of my buddies' collections, stuff like that. And then it started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I took over one bedroom in my house. Then I took over a second bedroom. Then I started going into the living room. And I was like, I better do something before my wife says something. So anyway, so then we opened up an official store in a little small hole in the wall. This is all during COVID, and and then it just took off from there. We've been growing. We've tripled to quadrupled ourselves every year on the year. So we'll see if that keeps going.
That's phenomenal to be quadrupling the sales. So, what drew you to the business overall? I know it started off out of your house, but were you a player at one point in time? Do you still play?
Yeah, I actually played from. I started out playing card games with one of my buddies when I was 97, so I was about 7 or 8 years old, right in there. And we started with like Yu-Gi-Oh. You know, that's like the gateway, the gateway to card games. And then it just got to the point where we started. They had the 10-cent box of Magic cards at the local comic book shop, and so we'd go through there. And we're like, man, for $6 we can build us a whole deck, you know. And so I built elves. I remember that. But anyway, then from there on, you know, we just kept playing, building up my collection and stuff like that. Then I sold my collection to buy a house, and then started reacquiring those pieces after I bought my house, you know, and then worked our way from there. And so, yeah, but I played Magic. I was what you would consider a grinder there for probably 8 years. So somewhere in there. Got a ninth place finish at a Charlotte Open, playing Wolf Run Robots. That's probably the highlight, you know.
Congrats, though. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. So, how many of those SCG circuit events did you participate in at the time?
Oh man. So I went to every one of them on the East Coast that was south, like so Baltimore, Philadelphia south.
Okay.
And then like Indianapolis, basically east there. I covered that whole little area. I went to every one of them basically.
So you were like, it was like you were on it like every weekend, or because I remember it felt like every weekend,
yes,
to my knowledge.
Yeah, basically the only time we wouldn't go is like the East Coast or the West Coast swings and stuff like that, because it just, I mean, yeah, it's cheap to fly to Vegas from where we live, but it's not cheap to stay in Vegas. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that, and it just wasn't worth our time going down there playing. At that time they did all the rounds in one day, and you're talking 13, 14 rounds in one day. And it was just one of those, like, we got to be back home on Monday for work, you know.
Right.
It's like, do you really want to do that to yourself? So
how do you like mentally prepare yourself for that amount of rounds? Because I even feel like just with the RCQs of today, like doing 5 rounds, 6 rounds is a lot. I've never done like a 13 round event before. So how do you mentally prepare yourself for that?
Well, you hope that your brain doesn't turn to mush, or you just choose a really simple deck. Where Wolf Run was kind of a dumb deck. I was having fun the whole time because it played a card called Mirror Battle Sphere in it, just as a one of, and I always got a giggle after casting it because it was a Japanese one. It was a Japanese foil, Mirror Battle Sphere, and the judges that whole tournament loved coming over and explaining to my opponent exactly how busted that card really was. So
do you recall what it does? Because I don't know if I've heard of that card.
So it's a 7-drop 4/7. When this Mirror Battlesphere enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature tokens. When Mirror Battlesphere attacks, you may tap X mirrors you control. If you do, Mirror Battlesphere gets +X/+O until the end of turn and deals X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So what you would do is you'd play like a mana dork mirrors and stuff like that. And then so you'd have, like, when you cast this thing, you'd have like 6 or 7 mirrors out. And I mean, back in the day, you know, like you were playing with fetches and all kinds of stuff. So you would take quite a bit of damage, and then you just come in and boom, there you go. So.
And mirrors have seemed to have made some type of a comeback as of late. Seems more so from the commander standpoint, but
yes,
it's neat to see them come back again.
Yeah, but it was just funny because, you know, my opponent would be like, and also with Wolf Run, you would give it trample and stuff like that. So it just made it huge. So.
And what year was this that you were playing in this tournament?
2011 was actually that one. So.
Oh wow! So it's going back some time then.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have the time? I'm sure it's probably difficult with running the store. You still have the time these days to play in any type of competitive tournaments like you used to?
No, I don't have time to grind anymore. It's just, and especially as problematic as they've made the system, you know, at one time, I mean, like when they had the point system, like the REL points,
right.
I qualified through limited, but it's just for the pro tour. But you know, and then they did away with the points like as soon as I qualified, so it didn't matter. They went to planeswalker points or whatever. And
How are you managing things now with the like tournaments in the store with the new system? How does that all function and work together?
well, we just tried something new. The new RCQ system. All these people are trying to do these like big cash tournaments to draw people in and stuff like that, and then they're trying to hope that they get enough people that they can take a little cut off the top. So what we recently just tried, and we got a lot of positive feedback from it, was just $5 entry. Like I buy the kit, we're $5 entry. We're just playing for the promos, and that seemed to go over very smoothly. Because most of the people there are just there for the spots anyway. They want that spot, and they could care less about any other prize support. So it made it
Mm-hmm.
it made it a lot more fun for a lot of people because they didn't lose $30. They didn't go 0-2 drop and lose $30 at the very beginning, or 25 or whatever. I've seen some people charge $60 for their RCQs. So
Yeah, they could definitely get quite expensive. Now, do you have a team that work with you, or is it just you by yourself running the events at the store?
oh no, no, no. I've got 5 employees currently. So and they're basically all full time.
Oh,
So
that's great. And what's your particular role at the store these days?
now I just I cover days that they can't work. I come in for about an hour or two every day, make sure they don't need anything, go get money from the bank, that kind of thing. And then mainly I do the ordering, pay all the bills and that kind of stuff. And then I still work as a school teacher, just because I enjoy it. So.
No, that's good. At least you're doing two things you enjoy. Most people just, try to go for just finding one thing that they can enjoy doing. But I'm glad to see that you have two things that you enjoy doing. How much time do you have to split between being a school teacher and running the store as the owner? How does that all factor in your day to day life? Because I'm sure it takes a lot up of your time.
Yes, it does. So my day as a school teacher, I wake up about 5:30, and I have to be at my school at 7. So I wake up about 5:30, and then it starts from there. As soon as I get done with school, I drive from school to the store. Get there about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then I stay for about 2 or 3 hours, and then I go home and then start my day over. So.
And then are you going to the store the days that you work at the store pretty much like right after work almost like with the school?
Yeah, yeah. So we just got done with summer. So summer, I was there every day from open till about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And then right now, I'll only be there for probably about 3 or 4 hours after I get done, and then I'll go home and be like, guys, I'm tired. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So. And then I normally work all day Saturday. Well, not all day, but I'll get there about noon and I'll work till about 6 or 7. So.
And how involved from a day-to-day operations standpoint with doing the ordering and the bills? I can only imagine that takes up a lot of your time there, just that alone. But then also, working the front counter, when your employees have the day off, how do you balance all of that? Because I've heard, from other stores that, it's hard, with running a game store, and some people may not realize how much is involved with that. So how do you go about maintaining, all those various aspects of the business day to day?
Well, about 3 to 4 hours of every day is just figuring out how much money I have to spend and, what we need for the store. Because when you get going through as much product as we go through now, you've got to use, 3 to 4 different distributors, because you can't just get it all from one place. The allotment system does not allow for that. So, like Lorcana is a perfect example. There's 3 distributors that are carrying Lorcana. And so I've ordered from all 3 of them. So with the balance between that and like running the front counter is I normally just bring like a little laptop up to the front, and in between customers, I'll take care of that and do that kind of stuff. It is what it is. Generally, I work the earlier shift, so we're not as slammed at that time, so I can kind of slip off and do the things that I need to do. So, yeah.
Is that one of the more difficult dealings with in terms of the day to day? And since you have to go through multiple distributors and you can't just get all product from one location?
Yeah, trying to figure out the allotment system, especially during COVID, that was a mess. Because you're like, I mean, sometimes you'd be like, "Hey, I need 40 booster boxes of the new Pokemon set," and you'd call up one of them, and they'd be like, "I got 4 for you." And you'd be like, "Well, all right," and then you'd call another one, "I got 3," and you're just sitting there and you're just trying to piecemeal it all together. So, especially starting out, it is so hard to get your allotment numbers because you got to spend money. You got to spend money for them to want to give you more product. So that was the biggest struggle that we had.
Is that the reason why it's so difficult to get in the beginning what you want in terms of the amount of product? Is because they're waiting almost, I guess, in a way, the distributor's waiting for you to, like, quote unquote, prove yourself to them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I mean, it's something crazy. Like 90% of hobby stores go out of business, in the first like 3 years, So I think they don't want to give you the time of day until they know you're sticking around. It's all about business relationships.
Of course.
I mean, I know some distributors, you go in there and you're like, "Hey, I'm a new store," and they're like, "Okay," and they're like, "So I want to set up with you," and they'll be like, "Well, we only take stores that have only been in business for 2 years or more," and you're just sitting there and you're like, "Oh, okay." Well, moving on to the next one,
So how did you combat that when you first started opening the store? I guess we could start by saying, what year did you open the store in?
So technically we are in year 3. So technically on July 29th, I think, was our year 2. I think it was the 29th, might have been the 22nd, was our year 2 mark of actually having a open storefront. Other than that, the year prior, we were we're online only. So we've technically been in business. This is our 4th year, but this is our 3rd year open as a full retail store. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So once you opened the store, when you were in an online capacity, were you dealing with the distributors in the same capacity that you are now? I would imagine having the actual storefront now makes the interaction a little bit different, I would assume.
Yeah. So there's a lot of brands that care about being a brick and mortar store. And then there's a lot of brands that don't care. They just want to push their product no matter where it is. And so some of those products are very volatile in their pricing. The MSRP of a booster box for some of those games that don't require brick and mortar stores, they'll say, "Oh, this booster box is supposed to sell for $80. You've got $60 in it," and then you pull up TCG Player and they're selling for like $47 to $50 a box. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like a race to the bottom. It's all the and I don't want to knock anybody that's starting out of their house, because I mean, I started out of my house, but I didn't go with sealed product. I went with singles and buying people's collections and just funneling it that way. But like, some of these people are just willing to race themselves to the bottom on their margins and like actually just lose money because they're passionate about the certain product that they love. And so they're like, "I'm willing to take a loss because I just enjoy being able to get the product cheap," So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a little bit of an issue with some of the games. And then some of the games, they're just starting out and they don't realize that you need to put and I don't say you need to put, but there just needs to be some kind of restrictions in place to help protect the product's values a little bit better on some games. And then some games, they're super strict about their product and it still goes down to nothing. So, it all depends.
Do you think that was a benefit for you early on when you were just doing online with single orders in order to deal with the low margins that are typically involved with game stores, unfortunately? Do you think by taking that approach as you did instead of, the race to the bottom, that enabled you to more successfully open Cardboard Shuffle in a retail sense?
Yes. So you make your money off of singles and the volume of singles. You get what I'm saying? Because it keeps your cash flow. At least in my experience. Booster boxes are something that it doesn't matter really how good of a product it is. You're only going to make 20 to 30 bucks and you're spending 60 to $70 on that product. You get what I'm saying? Versus, sometimes you find you buy a bulk box and you find a $5 card that you paid a penny for, so I don't know. I just feel like the margin for starting out and the barrier to entry is a lot lower too, if that makes sense. Like, if somebody, like if you have your collection here, and you can start doing that. Heck, I've seen people in Facebook groups and that's all they do is just sit there and they'll post in a Facebook group, hey, buying cards at 65%, 70%, 80%. Some of them are crazy and they post like 90, and I'm like, whoa. Is 10% of profit, and then you're going to lose a lot of that to credit card fees. I mean, like TCG Player alone takes almost 15%, like you got to make money, and it's one of those, like, if you ain't making at least 20%, in my opinion, it ain't worth your time, cause you can throw your money into a stock, like an index fund, and return about 10 to 15%. And some of these bonds are out now. I mean, heck, you're getting 10% out of some of these high yield bonds. I mean, if I ain't making 20%, I ain't throwing money at it,
And you're using TCG Player as the main source in terms of determining pricing of the cards you sell?
Yes. Yeah. TCG Player. If it's something really rare and awkward, I use like eBay sold listings. Everybody's got their own little bread and butter, but I just feel like it's an overall marketing of the market, what's selling, what's not selling. Now you still got the people that'll go in there and they just love losing money apparently, and they'll just throw something out there, like say it's $100 item, they'll be like $70,
Big profit loss there.
Yeah, and it's just one of those, like, I understand you're wanting to be the cheapest, so you move the product, but you're also cutting your own self in the throat, that's, people don't realize that, I guess.
Are you still maintaining the online presence with selling cards today as well as doing store?
Yeah. So we do anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 orders a week.
Oh, wow.
Online.
That's a lot. That's quite a lot.
Yeah. We stay swamped all the time. I've got two to three people that just like two all the time, three some of the time, that just sit there and do online orders. So.
Okay, so at least you have and that you're in a fortunate position with the 5 employees, especially to help manage that input coming in. This way, you don't get too backed up. Because how is it with the turnaround for you guys? Like the order comes in to then when you ship it out.
So it depends on when it hits us. So we're closed on Sundays and Mondays, just because I want to make sure all of my employees have 2 consecutive days off, no matter what. It's just one of those. Monday's a slow day in the game store world, and then Sunday is hit and miss. So we just went with just be closed Sunday and Monday, and it's worked out for us. And it gives all of my employees a guaranteed 2 days off, that they can go and do whatever they need to do. They have 2 days, no matter what, that's guaranteed. So sometimes on those, it could be anywhere from 24 to 48 hours, depending on, if you place your order Saturday at 11 p.m., probably going to be, Tuesday before we get to you, so, but I mean that you're talking a small number of orders in that area, because online sales aren't that great on Sundays either. So it's fine.
Well, that's great that you do that for your employees to make sure they give them the 2 days off. I'm sure that helps tremendously. And you're not the first store I've heard that's not open on Mondays. And to hear what you mentioned about Mondays being slow in the game store world, I'm kind of curious why that is. I'm sure it's maybe a little more involved, but the first thing that would come to my mind is just it's the beginning of the work week. But I'm sure there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I think it's beginning of the work week. Plus, they've already spent their money from the weekend, so you get paid on a Friday. So on Monday, you're generally the brokest. You're going to one of the brokest points of your life, your like paycheck cycle.
Sure.
And then also, there's a lot of stuff that goes on Mondays too. Mondays, Wednesdays are awful. We're just open on Wednesdays just because it's awkward to be open Tuesday and then closed on Wednesday. So it's just one of those, yeah, it's a weird day. Monday's a weird day, and every store that I've ever talked to says that Monday's one of their slowest days. It doesn't matter, and it's just like today on Monday here, like I said, I told you how many orders we do. So on Monday alone, all we've done on Monday is 52 orders. You get what I'm saying? Like online orders, which is not a lot comparative, like on a Friday we'll do, 500 or so. So,
right. Big difference between the 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's just one of those things. It's like, even it's slow online. So why even try to compete with that? Why waste my money? Because literally, people say, oh, you pay rent 30 days a week, or 31 days a week. Your rent is paid. You're paying that rent every day. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not paying my employees every day of the week. And just opening the doors. So just one employee opening the doors. If I don't sell $1,000 worth of merchandise, I lost money. Does that make sense?
Yep. It's a lot of the overhead factors into the profits the store makes.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you're talking increased electrical, increased payroll, it's just all that. And for me to pay my employees any kind of decent wage, if I don't sell $1,000 worth of stuff, we've lost money. So it's just mitigating that. It's worth it because if I just keep the store closed, you know what I lose? $200. You know what I'm saying?
Big difference when you factor it in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, whatever. I'd rather pay the $200 versus, the $200 plus the salary, plus the lots, plus, everything.
The electric, like you mentioned, it all adds up.
Yeah. So, and when you got a 3,000 square foot place that has old halogen lights, you don't want to cut on those lights very often. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Of course. So when the store is open, are you holding events every day during the week that it's open?
Yes. That would be the only reason why we add more days to our work schedule, is just because of the amount of events. In our area, in my little area, we've become the place to play card games. So, like Friday Night Magic, I'll have 20 some people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 15 more than the next closest store. You know what I'm saying? And then like One Piece, I'll have about 20 people for it. Pauper will have 10 to 15 for just playing Pauper. Digimon will have about 15 to 20. Commander Nights, we have 40 people.
Wow.
So, and for a small store, like we're a small store in size. So for 40 people, I think we sit about 50, in our play area. So 40 people, you're talking, when they're playing 4-man pods, that's basically full,
Mm-hmm.
because, we have some 6-foot tables, we have some 8-foot tables, in our layout. And, if they're playing on an 8-foot table and they're playing a 4-man pod, that table's basically took up,
Yeah.
So
Are you holding multiple events at the same time for different card games, or is it like one card game designated for each night?
So Tuesday is our chaos day, one of our chaos days. So we have multiple card games on Tuesday. We have Battle Spirits, which we have about 8 to 10. We have Flesh and Blood, which we get about 8 to 10. We have Pauper, which is about 10 to 15. So that's probably our most chaotic night. As far as like multiple games going on at the same time, because they all start at like anywhere from 6 to 7 o'clock. So it gets a little wild. And And then Thursday, there's too many Commander players. I could never do another event on a Thursday.
Is that
Wednesdays,
your most popular event that you hold? Is the Commander Nights?
that and Pokemon. Commander probably gets the most people on average, but my Pokemon, I mean, I've the Pokemon's a wild day because you have just a lot of generations of age groups. So I have like anywhere from 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds to 30, 40, 50-year-olds playing Pokemon. So it gets a little hectic with that, but yeah, probably the largest turnout. So we always make the parents stay if they're under the age of like 14, 15 for Pokemon. So we might only have 30 people playing, but we've got 50 people in the building. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, Commander's probably our largest group of players. But we don't do like an event. It's just casual play. I felt like we've found out that if you try to make it Commander too competitive, it starts fracturing the play groups. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And, so we just have it casual. People rotate in and out between like groups of 4, and it works out real smooth. And then like Wednesday is only Digimon because not a lot of people in our area want to do much on a Wednesday. So it's just Digimon players. And then like Friday is Magic and Shadowverse, which is a new card game. And it is taken off like a rocket in our area. So it was like a slow burn at first. It released about a month ago. And that first week I was sitting on about, $1,000 our cost and product. And I was like, this is going to be rough right here. We're taking an L on this one, and then, and then it's just one of those, we sold a starter deck and I was like, and then we sold another one. I was like, and it just kind of, and then next thing I know, I'm out of Shadowverse product and I'm like, oh man. So I ordered like 30 or 40 boxes, more booster boxes, which is all the distributors had at that time. I ordered all of it and I sold out of it in an hour and a half, and you're just
complete 180 from what you expected, right?
Yeah. So you're just, cause you're sitting there and you're like, man, I just wasted $1,000, cause I normally throw $1,000 at every card game. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be, Poop Fighters 3 or something terrible, and I'd be like, we'll throw $1,000 at it. We'll see what happens, so it's kind of, throw stuff at a wall and see what sticks, but Shadowverse was a pleasant surprise.
How would you describe the card game? I haven't heard of this one. I don't believe.
So it started out as a digital, like online card game, kind of like, what's the D&D or the World of Warcraft one? Hearthstone.
Yes.
So it was a competitor for Hearthstone, and it's probably one of the more popular online app games. And then so Psy Games, which runs it, partnered with Bushiroad and made a paper version of this game. And it's taken off. It's interesting. So you have like classes that you can be. So you're like, your deck's a wizard class. Your deck is a warrior class, so I haven't played it 100%, but I've watched some gameplay and it looks interesting. The app is really intuitive into the gameplay. Like you can literally not talk to your opponent. It has a voice command like module thing where you just press a button and it's like, your turn, attack phase, main phase, it's really interesting. Then they also introduced like the tap pay things on like credit cards and stuff, RFID. So they put RFD tags in their cards, like their high end cards, and you kind of like tap it to your phone and it gives you a special character that is only yours, which is interesting. Those cards, right now they're holding at about $150 to $200 for those cards. But the game was a pleasant surprise. It turned out a lot better than I thought. I think we had 15 for it on Friday for our first tournament. So I'm hoping that it keeps growing. So
yeah, hopefully it turns out, the more card games, the better. And speaking of, card games in general, you're not the first store I've heard. Talking to Treasure Coast Magic on the previous episode of the podcast, they also talked about the popularity of Pokemon at their store too. So hearing it at your store as well, I see it more of a buying product standpoint here in New York. I don't see many people playing it as much, but it seems like from other states are having success with having tournaments and stuff for Pokemon. And I know it's like kind of a generational thing, which is where the popularity came from. And I'm curious from your end if the popularity stems from before COVID. Was it there then? Because I remember that's when I started seeing the pickup of people buying it was during COVID. So I'm curious if you've been seeing this popularity of Pokemon for an extended period of time.
I haven't seen it. I did not see it before COVID. Before COVID, there was only about 10 players in our area. But after COVID, it is kind of exploded. And so much so in our area that we had a regional for the first time last year in Knoxville, and they're doing it again because the turnout was so great. So they're doing another Pokemon regional in Knoxville. So that's interesting. So I think our area is kind of growing a lot faster than they expected, and so they're kind of pushing our area a little bit more.
That's something. I find it fascinating to see that game take off because I don't know about you, but like when I was a kid growing up, that was pure. We purely just collected the cards. We never actually played the game.
Yeah. No, I never played it really until I was an adult. So somebody took me to a Pokemon regional. They talked me into it, and so it was like in Charlotte or something like that, and which we're about 3 hours from Charlotte. They took me to Charlotte, and I played this Durant mill deck, and he was like, literally, he was just like, you go get your 3 Durants out, you put a metal energy on it, and you mill them for 4. Oh, is that it? And they're like, yeah. And at the time, like the best deck was like this stall deck, and it would like put a big wall out front and wait for you to deck yourself. So by playing mill, you milled them while they're hiding behind their wall.
It's amazing, isn't it? How the various card games and the archetypes you could play, how each different card game still has those similarities that tie them together, like with mill and, just the resource allocations and whatnot, and just using a wall to block yourself while you try to carry out your plan. It's amazing how they all seem to tie into each other like that.
Yeah. Now I just wish Wizards of the Coast would make Battle of Wits like evergreen and just put it in every format. That way I can just play Battle of Wits and standard, where it's actually, could be competitive. So
are you getting to play, like, I know you said you don't have time to do the competitive scene anymore, but in your free time that you do have, what are you playing these days? Is it still Magic?
Yeah, Magic. I play Pauper with my Pauper crowd on Tuesdays sometimes.
It's a fun format.
Yeah. It's just silly, It's just like, oh, okay, we'll just play this stuff, We try to have like it's not like a strict rule, but it's just like a gentleman's agreement that nobody plays Burn. It's like don't play Burn, because it's basically just the legacy deck minus like 3 cards, like
that's one of my decks.
Oh, is it? Yeah. It's just kind of like a gentleman's agreement that we just don't do it.
It moves very fast.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. You're sitting there and you're like, oh, I'm at 8. I'm fine. He only has 1 card in hand, and then you're dead. Yeah,
like, it's fun but silly.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of the Boros synthesizer or not combo, but the draw. Basically you draw your whole deck with bouncing synthesizers. But I play that, and then normally on Mondays I go and play Modern at another store in town. That's a friend of mine, but I probably won't make it tonight. So.
How is the competition with other stores? I know you all, try to help each other out when you can, but in terms of proximity to the next store closest to you, are the stores that are within your vicinity, are they close by, or is there like a significant gap in terms of time to get like from your store, say, to the next closest store to you?
So the next closest store to me is 2 miles, but the guy doesn't do card games.
Okay.
He carries card products. But he's mainly like your old school comic book store that sells like board games, comic books, Warhammer 40K stuff, that kind of thing. So I let him have all that stuff, and he kind of lets me have all of my stuff, and we send each other people back and forth. Somebody comes in there asking for 40K stuff, I'll be like, bud, that's not something I do. You can go see Dwayne.
That's good that you have that business relationship that you can help each other out like that.
Yeah. So it's been great so far. He deals in like pops, so I don't mess with pops. It's all him. Board games. That's his baby. You can keep it. Type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just worked out a lot better that way. Because also board games isn't something I'm very passionate about. So if somebody else wants to take that off my hands, by all means. And then Pop's staring at me with their big bug eyes. Not a fan, so you can keep those too.
I tell you though, when I went on your website, I was quite impressed by the number of various products you carry, and not just in the TCG world.
Yeah. So we're actually about to remove Legos. Somebody just offered to buy out our whole Lego selection, so we're getting rid of those. We're going to transition a little bit. We need to update a few things on the website. We've got a few new items that we've just been slammed. New releases have buried us under the table, so to speak. So we've got a few things we need to add. But thank you for the website stuff. Yeah, we try to keep a wide selection for everybody, basically. We're actually working on adding our used video game inventory to that website right now. So hopefully that'll be active here in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
How is it managing that and cataloging all the various products?
A mess. So it never fails. Every day I'll go to scan something with a barcode, and then it would be like out of 10 items, one of them won't be in the system, and I'm like, yeah. Because you're sitting there, and sometimes our like day shift people, a person, he's basically by himself until about 3:00. From 1 to 3, he's by himself. So if a shipment comes in and then he's busy with customers, I mean, it's basically, sometimes it can be, hectic, and, sometimes things get missed. It's not that big of a deal because we price everything. When we make sure to price everything, like put a sticker on it to make sure, the price is there, but, mistakes happen. It's one of those, when we can afford to hire another person to help him out, we will, but until then, it's what we got, so.
Do you believe having the luxury of having the 5 full-time employees enables you to venture into these other products that just aren't exclusive to TCGs, that allow you to expand the store in that manner?
Yeah. So it helps. It helps a ton. Knowing that I don't have to worry about the back end as much, is kind of great. So, cause it allows me to be more flexible with the front end of the store. So yeah, it does help. And then also each one of my guys has their own little like niche hobby that they love, so we're all kind of bound together by card games. That's like the center, like little mechanism, the glue that sticks us all together. But we all have our own separate hobbies from card games, so how we got into Gundams is one of our employees really likes Gundams, like I like the show, but he likes building them, so he can tell me when a kit is coming out, what kit it is, how popular it'll be, that kind of thing. So we know to get these certain Gunpla kits in. One employee is really big into anime, so he can tell you what the hottest anime/manga stuff is. And so, we get all that stuff in, and it sells really well. And then video games, the one, my main guy that runs the front counter, he's a big video game nerd. So he has Resident Evil and Kingdom Hearts tattoos all up both of his arms, so yeah, we all have our own little niche, that we're good at. So
it's certainly, I think with the number of products you have, certainly a unique aspect to your store. And it's great that you have the employees help facilitate that. And then you have them in their own, they all have their own niche topic that they can specialize in to add more value to the store. What would you say is another thing about the store that you feel makes it unique that may not be seen in another store?
Probably just like the positive energy of like our play groups. Like we don't really have anybody that gets mad and like flips tables or sits there and like cusses people or stuff. We have one guy that we joke, we call him Salt Master as a joke. And, but you know, you can tell he's a little flustered, but what he does is he goes outside and rages. You get what I'm saying? And he doesn't take it out on the person or anything. You'll see him, he'll get up, he'll grab a soda out of the thing, give us money for it and walk outside, and you won't see him for 10 or 15 minutes. And then he comes back and he's cool as a cucumber and he's back at it, just like the community around us is very positive in that aspect, and we have we have a Discord, and then we have they've broken off and they've made like their own like friend chats now in these play groups. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of a growing thing, like people are friends with people that they never would expect, like we have a brain surgeon that invites all the Pokemon guys over, to go to his like lake house. You get what I'm saying? Like when would a 25-year-old guy be friends with a brain surgeon? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's just interesting,
Of course, yeah, and definitely from the camaraderie that you've shared about your store here. I was looking at some of the ratings of your store from people that have shopped there before, and one of them caught my eye in particular from Brittany Williams. She wrote, "Incredibly friendly and kind staff, sincerely cares for their patrons. Greatly enjoyed my experience here and plan on supporting this cool local business again in the future." I think that right there, Mark, tells you everything you need to know. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, we try, like I said, we try to be as helpful as humanly possible. We can't have every item that people want. If we had evolving skies for every person that comes in and asks for it, we'd be rich. You know what I'm saying?
The ideal scenario, right?
Yeah. But yeah. We try to have as many products as we possibly can for everybody to have a selection. You
even have your own playmat. I saw that you're
selling. Dude, those things are hot. So
that's amazing.
So that's actually the third batch that we've made. We sold out of the first batch on a pre-order in like 20 minutes. And so then we got another batch in and I only listed 10 of them online. And then we sold out of all 38 of them or whatever in store in an hour and a half. And then this one, I just posted this one last night and I posted 50 of them. We've already sold 40.
Wow. That's amazing. I like how modest the listing was. A few people have asked for them.
Yeah.
That was genius.
Yeah. We tried we try not to like openly brag or whatever, but the guy that designs that, he's so talented. The guy that designed that.
It's cool.
Yeah, he's wild. Like you remember Van Warp Tour, like the old like music.
Oh, the Warp Tours. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he was a guitarist for a band that traveled in Warp Tour, and he would make like all these logos for these bands and stuff. And then somehow through his travels, he just stopped in our area and just never left. And he's like a guitarist. He's like a famous guitarist. I don't want to out him. But yeah, he's like a famous guitarist, and he just kind of stopped in our area, and he's been playing card games at the store, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been kind of dabbling in art. You want me to do something for you?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." And he did that, and I was like, "Man, that is insane." Yeah,
that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have to do any marketing, like to get people interested in that? Like, because it seems like it's selling itself almost.
Oh yeah, the playmat. No, I have not done any marketing. So after the first batch came in, like I posted in the Discord, "Hey guys, we got the playmats ordered. This is a small run just to see how they look, when they come in, because you never know what the print quality is going to be when you order stuff, through online, like through other companies that you've never dealt with before." And then it came in and they were hot. You know what I'm saying? They look so clean. The colors were so rich, and we just set it on the counter and we just put a sticker on it, $20 or whatever. And they just rolled, and then now I've got people that have never even played at my store that live in the area that ordered one of these playmats.
That's a great success story.
Yeah. The playmat has been hot, and it's kind of wild, really. You got people like I said, never really stepped foot in my store. It was like, "Hey, I saw your playmat. It looks awesome. I want one."
Oh, good for you, Mark. That's great to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. So outside of the playmat, so how, since that's selling itself, how do you go about marketing your other products or marketing the store in general? What's your preferred avenue to do so?
So, Facebook or Meta's very, very good tool. We have a customer, you see, and this is all about building relationships right here. Is like we have a customer that works for a very large marketing firm. I can't really say who or what.
It's okay.
Um, and I mean, he's basically doing all of our Google ads and stuff for basically free. So he comes in, he sends me like a weekly spreadsheet update, you know, about every Monday at like 6 o'clock. I'll get a big long email from him, and it's breaking down all our data and stuff like that, and clicks and sales and confirmed open carts, abandoned carts, confirmed purchases, age groups that have come through come through on the website, how many people have called through the click button on Google. I mean, he has a whole breakdown, and he shows like the growth rate of like the clicks and like it's one of those, it pays to be nice to everybody that walks in the door. You know what I'm saying? Whether they spend a dime, or not, it just pays to be nice. Hey, you know, hey, how you doing? If you have any questions, just let me know, and then if you're busy with something, be like, hey, I'm a little busy, but if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll take time, make sure that they know that they're the priority no matter what you're doing in the store. And it really benefits and works out in the long run, because you have people that are just willing just to help out the store, just to help you all out. No benefits to them. They just want a place to play. You've been nice to them. They'll help you out any way they can.
Without a doubt. Yeah. It's always good to hear. It's just good karma. Just, helping people without expecting anything in return.
Yeah. I mean, the playmat design, the Google ad, the Google analytics and all that stuff, it's just people just willing to donate their time to the store, and that's something that, you don't get everywhere.
Of course. Yeah. You're doing a good thing, Mark. I really like hearing about everything going on at the store. I guess my last question here would be, one of my favorite things to ask is about the store layout. And if you were to describe to a new customer coming into the store like myself, or somebody else that's moved to Tennessee, or that's coming to the store for the first time, how would you describe the store layout to somebody new?
When we first moved in there, we didn't quite have as many products as we do now, and I think the guy that works for me named Kirk, he's the blonde-haired guy on top of the playmat. So there's me and the UT orange shirt with the beard. That's me, and then the other one's Kirk, and he described it as a lineal space. Which is like, like horror movies, you know what I'm saying? Like just a long, straight space,
Yeah.
with the lights just running parallel with everything.
Yep.
So that's how he originally described it, but we've got it a little bit more pizzazz now. So how you would walk in, the first thing you walk in is the registers right there on the left at the door, and then you're greeted with like what you would consider like impulse buys, like little tiny like gachapons, like squish toys, plushies, that kind of thing. And then video games are on the right side right there when you first walk in. And then you move into like the Gundams, and then the anime merch, and then you go into the play space. So the way it's made is, and anybody starting out a store needs to know this, people don't like shopping in a place that is crowded with people they don't know. Okay. So if your play space is also your sales space, you're going to have problems. You get what I'm saying? People are going to show up to your store, and people that have social anxiety and stuff like that won't come back. You get what I'm saying? So we make sure that we have a dividing line between play space and retail space. So basically once you start passing the snacks and the drink machines, you've entered play space, and the tables are clearly laid out, you're going in there to sit down and do something, not, oh, I wonder what's over here. It's very cut and dry. You know that's what that's there for, some customers get weirded out, by having a bunch of people just hovering around them that they don't know, especially when they all have backpacks. I don't know what it is, but some people get freaked out by backpacks, especially when there's 40 people in there with backpacks. So that's how we have it laid out currently. We're talking about expanding into our next door area, which will open up our retail space greatly. So right now, I think I've got about 1,500 square feet of retail. Opening that up, it'll give me another like 2,000 more square feet of retail space. So that'd be great.
Are you going to remain in the general area of where you are now?
Yeah. Yeah, I love our area. It's there's an elementary school behind me. There's a high school right across the street. So there's food in the shopping center. So my players, if they want to go eat, there's places for them to eat. If they want to go, if they need a pack of chewing gum, there's a Dollar General right there in the same shopping center. And,
it's very convenient. Your location.
Yeah. And so we're just there's an old bookstore that's next door to us that we're going to take over, basically.
Okay.
And then we'll just make the current space that we're in the play space, and then make that the new space, the retail space, basically.
That sounds great.
Is the plan, is the master plan. But also another tip for anybody opening a store, if they ever want to, is make sure you have the checkout counter near the door. Okay. It helps cut down on theft, helps cut down on people wondering where the checkout is too, because it's right there. And it also helps with like greeting customers and stuff, because you're already right there as they come in. You can say, hey, how you doing? And that type of thing. So
very good food for thought. And you kind of alluded to it already with the finding a bigger space. Are there any other aspirations you have for the store?
Well, I've got crazy, super lunatic ideas, and then,
that's okay. Yeah, you can share those.
So there's this space in town that's for sale, and I really want it. It's 20,000 square feet. It's an old racquetball gym, so like a racquetball gymnasium thing. It's got a swimming pool in it. It's got racquetball courts or tennis courts in the back. It's got huge space. It's got an upstairs. It's got a downstairs. Unlimited money idea was like, take the space, make the upstairs like the offices, the inventory, like the card singles, and then make the downstairs like a retail space, just all retail. And then so there's this game called pickleball that's blown up in my area. I don't know if it's
oh yes, I've heard of it.
And so there's not really any area that supports it around here. So I was going to make like pickleball courts in the back, basically to convert those old tennis courts into like pickleball courts. I don't play pickleball, but I know a lot of people who do. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those, like, make it into like a pickleball area, have that little swimming pool, maybe put me a little apartment up there for me and my wife, and then make one of those tennis courts into like a little yard for my dogs. And then boom, there we go. I'm always at the store. I've got a swimming pool. I've got a yard, plenty of parking. Parking is a must, by the way. If you open a store, don't underestimate parking. Okay. If you're looking at spaces and it's only got 5 or 6 parking spots, just move on. Okay. That's because nobody carpools. You get what I'm saying?
Of course. Yeah. Everybody's in their own area and they all want to drive themselves.
Yep. So like Commander night, I have 40 separate cars out in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's definitely a good thing to keep in mind is, I'm just thinking of it yesterday. We went to a restaurant with my family and had to park on the side of the street. There wasn't any parking lot for this restaurant. And I was like, oh geez. I was like, I prefer when there's a parking lot. So it's a very good notion to use for any business.
Yeah. And in your area, there might be more access to public transportation, but in my area, the city buses shut down at like 3:00. So
wow, that's early. Yeah. Hours are constant.
Like 3 or 4 o'clock, they're shut down, and they literally only run to like Food City, Target, Walmart, and then the big housing communities, like, like the big like apartment complexes in the area, but they don't go anywhere else, so it's just like, well, if you ain't going to Walmart, Target, or Food City, which is like the grocery, it's a southern grocery chain, pretty big. if you're not going to any one of those, you ain't going there,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, so public transportation is just not a thing here.
Well, I certainly hope, Mark, that the big, idea you have for what you want to do in the store in the future, I sure hope that comes to fruition for you. I think it will with the trajectory you're on with the store, with the positive feedback you're getting from people. I could tell you're a good dude, so I do hope this comes to fruition for you. I think it has legs. So before we sign off here, I wanted to just give you the time to let people know where they could find you and where they could find out more about Cardboard Shuffle.
Cardboardshuffle.com is, that takes you to the website. The website is, we like to still say it's in beta. We're always adding stuff and changing things. So bear in mind with that. And then, Cardboard Shuffle on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube. We're on all those. And so if you have any questions about anything, also our Discord's just Cardboard Shuffle. If you have any questions about anything, we'll help you out to the best of our ability. And that's about it.
Awesome, Mark. Well, I'll share those links in the show notes for this episode. Again, thank you for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure getting to talk with you.
Yeah, pleasure having me on. So thank you.
My pleasure. And for everyone listening, if you'd like to check out, like I mentioned at the top of the episode, our previous episode with Treasure Coast Magic, who could be found at treasurecoastmagic.com. You can feel free to listen to that previous episode. This episode with Cardboard Shuffle and Mark will be the next one we release, and it marks our 10th episode of the Match Slip podcast. And with that launch of the Match Slip podcast, we're officially launching our Patreon page at patreon.com/thematchslip. If you care to donate to the cause, you can feel free. Otherwise, no worries at all. And additionally, come September 1st, we're teasing right now our first official product line for the Match Slip, which will be sharing more details on September 1st when SCG Con in Columbus is launched. Other than that, if you'd like to subscribe to the Match Slip, you could do so at thematchslip.com/newsletter. Again, follow Cardboard Shuffle on Facebook. You could also find them on cardboardshuffle.com, as Mark had mentioned. And with that, we will talk to you all in the next episode. Take care.